Every one of the three bears has their own personality, depth, and a past that's way darker than you'd ever imagine. So let's break down the story and psychology behind each one of them. Let's start with Panda. Panda spent his entire childhood alone inside a zoo with nothing but his imagination to keep him company. That's exactly why he's one of the characters who struggles the most with social interaction. He spent years completely isolated inside an artificial habitat without ever realizing it was fake. As far as he knew, he was simply living inside a wildlife sanctuary somewhere in China. Even back then, Panda was cheerful and incredibly polite. He even formed what felt like a genuine emotional bond with the food chute that delivered his meals every day, almost treating it like it was his best friend. But that only made his loneliness worse. It reached the point where he started talking to his own reflection in the water and even drawing faces on the ground just so he could have someone else to talk to. One day, the zoo workers realized how lonely Panda had become, so they decided to give him a stuffed toy to be his friend. And it actually worked. He immediately grew attached to it, started bonding with it, and shared every activity he did with his new companion. What's interesting is that this also suggests Panda understood that not everything around him was real. The toy was obviously fake, yet he still chose to connect with it emotionally. It also explains another possibility. Maybe there were other pandas in the sanctuary, or maybe Panda had been separated from his parents and abandoned. Bears often give birth to twins, and in many cases, the mother abandons one cub so she can focus all her energy on raising the other and making sure it survives. Usually, it's the weaker cub that's left behind, and it seems Panda suffered that exact same fate. That also explains Panda's fragile personality and his constant fear of being abandoned. Anyway, Panda and his stuffed friend eventually decided to investigate the mysterious window. The moment he looked outside, he saw a television and immediately realized there were so many incredible things waiting beyond his enclosure. He told his stuffed friend everything he had seen, especially how amazed he was by anime. The very next day, Panda decided to escape. He took the stuffed toy with him so they could finally enjoy watching television, or what he believed was some kind of magical box. But when he finally reached it, he was shocked to find the TV turned off. Then he noticed the trees outside through the doorway and immediately assumed they were another magical box waiting to be explored. At the same time, the zookeepers realized Panda had disappeared and immediately began searching for him. After a long chase, Panda finally managed to escape, but he was forced to leave his stuffed friend behind.
Bye to Pretty Heart Power.
As for Grizz, in one episode we saw that Grizz was obsessed with a giant burrito, and we didn't exactly get why. It was tied to something from his past when he was a kid during a rainy day, and lots of firefighters and cops were gathered around while a little bear was stuck on a tree trying to rescue him from the top of the tree, and the guy discovers it's Grizz crying while the firefighter extends his hand and Grizz hugs him with all love. And this is what made him get super attached to the burrito, because that was the first time he ever felt love and safety. In the animal world, brown bears abandon their cubs for several reasons, including if the mother goes through famine or drought, she abandons her cub, or her young age and lack of experience when she gives birth to a weak cub and doesn't know how to deal with it, so she leaves it, or the males attacking the cubs to force the female to enter the estrus period for mating, so he chases the mom and her cubs, and if the cub is slow or weak and couldn't keep up with its mom's speed in tree climbing, the mom is forced to leave it behind and survive. And this is what probably happened to Grizz, and she left him on the tree for the firefighters to find him. And after a period of rescuing him, he was adopted by a family. But it wasn't a real family. Instead, it was in a TV show or a sitcom comedy family. The problem is he knew he was on a show, but at the same time he believed they were his family, and even called the actors mom and dad, and even they played along with him, making him feel like he was in a real family until the production crew decided to bring another real kid to the show. And once the kid arrived to the show and started stealing all the spotlight from him, Grizz felt betrayed and forgotten by the people he thought were his family. So he challenged the kid in a contest all over the studio lot to prove he is awesome too. And indeed, he won and goes back to being the star of the show, to realize at this moment something important, that they kicked him out and brought the other kid normally and naturally without feeling guilty, making him realize that this family is not real, and a real family doesn't abandon any of its members. So he made a decision to leave them and go away searching for a real family. Ice Bear. Ice Bear, with Russian roots, grew up in the Arctic and was alone most of the time and got lost in the ice, and it's clear he got separated from his mother after a hunter attacked and chased him. To stumble upon a tent with a Russian guy living there, he entered the tent and started checking it out for the guy to attack him, making him fall and notice that he is injured in his leg. So Panda helped him, and the guy decided to keep him in the tent since hunters are chasing him, but with one condition, that he works for his food and shelter. And Yuri taught him survival skills, cooking, axe usage, and knitting, and these skills helped him a lot in the future. Now, he noticed a box containing his family photo and discovered that Panda messed with the box, getting super angry at him and kicking him out of the tent, and Panda went out sad to get stuck in a trap by the hunters. And the hunters came to take him, but Yuri came back and rescued him and escaped with him while the hunters were chasing him. It's obvious Yuri felt guilty for what he did, so he came back to save him, until he reached the end of the road, breaking the ice and leaving Panda on an ice floe to drift away, crying sadly over what happened. And after becoming stranded, he reaches the sea to England, and as soon as he arrives, he falls into lots of trouble and tough situations, and enters a bakery believing Yuri is there because the shop name is close to Yuri's name. He approached the baker and hugged him, but the baker got mad and kicked him out of the bakery. To meet after that several kids who caused trouble, and he helped them break a lock, and from that moment he joined their group. It's clear they wanted to use him, but they were the only ones who made him feel like family. And with time, Bear started changing and becoming mischievous, like writing on walls and throwing tomatoes at cars, becoming their best friend until he returned to the same bakery shop, and they broke into the place to rob the bakery and get revenge for what was done to him previously, and started destroying everything, until Panda's conscience woke up and he remembered Yuri's words to back off at the last second from the robbery and tell the kids he backed out of what he is doing, leading to a conflict to spark between them. But at the same moment, police arrived and they cooperated together to get out of the bakery and escape successfully. And from here, he leaves them to find his destiny alone and search for a new family. As for Charlie, Charlie is the absolute oldest living creature in all of cartoons. His first appearance dating back to 1913 in the era of the American Wild West, wandering all alone through the arid deserts of Mexico until he spots an unconscious man passed out in the sand named El Oso, and he steps up to save him, dragging him back to a cozy little shack and offering him water to keep him alive. But when the guy finally wakes up, he flips out in sheer terror, screaming at the top of his lungs, convinced that Charlie, the legendary chupacabra beast, is a mythical monster that preys exclusively on the blood of livestock. It turns out later that El Oso is actually an outlaw, a wanted fugitive running from the law with a massive bounty on his head. So when a ruthless gang of bounty hunters closes in to capture him, Charlie instinctively hides him and protects him, even being forced to awkwardly disguise himself as a cactus just so the gang wouldn't spot him, before Charlie finally leaves him behind and continues his lonely journey across the harsh desert. He eventually ends up deep in a forest where Dana Tabes, just a little kid at the time, spots a weird, mysterious creature roaming around and tries her best to chase him down, but she slips and falls right off a cliff edge, only for Charlie to swoop in and save her life, marking that unforgettable moment for her as she relentlessly tries to catch him ever since. Now, let's leave Charlie behind and circle back to our favorite bears. Grizzly was still out there desperately searching for a family to truly belong to, until his journey finally led him to a railroad bridge. He spots Panda trapped right on the tracks, totally hopeless and heartbroken because he feels like he doesn't have a family. Grizz tries his absolute best to save him, but right at that exact split second, a roaring train comes speeding straight toward them. Luckily for them, Ice Bear happened to be hanging out nearby, springing into action with lightning speed and managing to rescue both of them in the nick of time, as all three of them miraculously escaped the oncoming train. Right after that close call, they start getting to know each other much better. Grizzly is totally blown away by Ice Bear's incredible bravery and his smooth rescue style, so he suggests that they stick together and back each other up, officially becoming a real family, or rather, brothers. They eventually wind up crashing inside a cardboard box parked on the side of the road, trying desperately to grab the attention of any passing car in the faint hope that someone might scoop them up and drive them all the way to Paris, but everybody just drives right past and ignores them. While they're stuck waiting, a homeless guy shows up trying to flag down cars too. At first, they try to shoo him away because they claimed the spot first, but when he offers them 2 sweet treats, they totally change their minds and let him share the box with them for a quick snooze. But the next morning brings a massive shock. The guy totally scams them, steals the box, and kidnaps them. Later on, they stumble upon a gigantic shipping warehouse sitting right in the middle of the desert, and the second they step inside, they are totally hypnotized by the insane mountain of boxes, genuinely believing they've finally struck gold and found paradise and the ultimate home. home. But things go sideways real fast as arguments flare up between them, since every single one of them wants to build something totally different, turning the whole place into an all-out mini-war where they start hurling boxes straight at each other's faces. By the end of it all, they finally snap back to reality, realizing this stupid fight is completely pointless and will only end up tearing them apart for good. So they back down, patch things up, and make up. Next up, they decided to pitch themselves at a pet shop in the hopes that somebody would adopt them. But because there were 0 customers around, the shop owner decided to film them and post clips online to pull in adopters. And the wild plot twist was that they blew up big time and went super viral, with folks flooding in to adopt them. Except the catch was that every single person only wanted to adopt just one of them. That's when it hit them that saying yes to any offer meant getting split apart for good and never seeing each other ever again. So they flat out turned down every single offer. After that, they found themselves locked inside a shipping box riding the waves across the ocean, totally bound for Japan, where they dreamed of living right above a sushi joint. But they ended up crashing on a tropical island and totally miscalculated, thinking they hit Japan before walking right into a trap. Luckily for them, Dave and Carla swooped in to save the day, welcoming them into their crib, while everyone tried teaming up to build a raft to bust off the island, only to find out later on that Dave was secretly sabotaging their plans the whole time because he's a total recluse who loathes human society. By the end of it, they confronted him and bailed out on a tiny boat, but Carla ditched them smack dab in the middle of the ocean, leaving the tides to finally wash them ashore in Japan. And right from there, their wild adventures just kept rolling across the globe. Like that one time they decided to jet over to Sweden because they were dead convinced it had the absolute best pancakes on earth. In another crazy hustle, they tried setting up a makeshift house right on the street until they scored a $100 bill, getting so insanely attached to it that their obsession stopped them from spending it on a single thing, until a sneaky pickpocket jacked it from them, only for them to find out later that the thief was actually a buddy they met at the start of the episode. Once they finally learned the hard way about cash, they hustled to stack up more by any means necessary, jumping into arcade games at a carnival fair, hoping to score enough tickets for a plane ride back to their dream home, though every single shot completely bombed. They refused to quit, entering a singing contest to chase a cash prize, then picking up gig work slinging newspapers, and even diving headfirst into a wrestling championship just to chase the bag, actually managing to claw their way to the finals and taking home the W. During one wild ride, a filthy rich guy bought them out at a public auction, and at first, they thought they finally scored the ultimate home and family they'd been dreaming of. But the harsh reality check hit hard because the guy didn't buy them to treat them like family at all, instead treating them like deadbeat property and play toys just like regular pets, which led them to bust out and escape. After that, they hit up a random beach, still hunting for a spot to finally plant roots and call home, where they came up with the grand idea of building a sandcastle. They actually pulled it off, constructing a massive, hyper-detailed architectural sandy palace, and for the very first time, they actually felt like they owned a real roof over their heads. But that hype didn't last long because a pack of bullies rolled through and trashed the whole setup, and even though the bears put a stop to them seconds later, a colossal ocean wave crashed down and completely wiped the entire castle away. Years flew by, and the Bear Bros grew up, but they were still stuck with no real home, until one day they bought a sketchy lucky amulet supposedly packed with wish-granting magic, wishing hard for a house, when out of nowhere, a sneaky raccoon snatched the amulet and bolted, sending the bears sprinting after him. The raccoon ended up leading them straight into a pitch-black, empty cave, where they figured the amulet totally worked its magic, deciding right then and there to flip that cave into their crib, turning it into the exact pad they live in to this very day. Those three bears took heavy beatings through a rough-ass childhood that dragged them down to where they stand today. But through all that grit, every single one of them managed to push past their past and shack up under one roof with their bros, turning into a tight-knit family despite totally clashing personalities. Every single one of them is packing a painful past that left deep scars on who they are. Grizz deals with hardcore abandonment issues, driving him to constantly hustle for love and acceptance from everybody around him, which pushes him to buddy up with humans and crank his hype and positive energy way past max, while secretly burying a constant panic of getting left all alone. Panda's got deep-seated mental blocks kicking off from his childhood locked up inside a zoo cage where he never caught any genuine emotional warmth or family love, spending most of his days totally isolated, which left him way more glued to material stuff and tech instead of humans, dealing with a massive massive blow to his self-esteem while getting hopelessly hooked on his phone because it feeds him a fake, quick fix of love and approval. Ice Bear pulled the shortest straw with the most brutal childhood trauma, turning him into a super chill, ice-cold talker rather than some goofy, sarcastic comic relief type like some folks might guess. Everything he went through forced him to slam the brakes on his feelings, fear, and grief, locking his focus entirely on hardcore survival skills like watching his brother's backs, running the cave, and cooking guru, which is why he barely ever opens his mouth except for super rare moments. In the end, the Bear Bros might have gotten totally robbed of the childhood they deserved, but they ended up finding the exact family they chased their whole lives right in each other, turning their whole trip into one of the most heavyweight emotional stories in the entire cartoon universe. And with that, we've hit the finish line of this full character breakdown on the We Bare Bears, hoping the video blew your minds. So don't forget to smash that subscribe button and drop a like, and I'll catch you guys in the next breakdown.